Hi everyone, just got back from Vegas and just wanted to share a few tips that I picked up along the way. So, this was our first trip in the midst of this whole COVID business. And so, it was three of us went down, and the first thing we had to do was obviously get our COVID test before we left. That was a 15-minute antigen test. Did it at Shoppers Drug Mart. $40, really quick, simple, no issues. That test needs to be done 72 hours before departure. So, tip number one is take digital copies and paper copies of all of your vaccines, first and second dose shots, and your COVID test. So if you only have paper copies, take photographs of them just in case you lose stuff. But they ask you for all that stuff at the airports, and sometimes they want to see paper and sometimes they want to see digital. So have both and keep that with you at all times. Got to the airport. It was surprisingly busy. Didn't expect that. So it was, but they do have a lot of new protocols. So it was much slower than usual, and it was just slower. So prepare yourself to be waiting in some lineups to get through everything. Tip number two: take a picture of your COVID test just in case you misplace it. Already said that, but it is a tip. I need you guys make sure you take pictures of all your COVID tests. Because if you don't have that stuff, you're gonna be in trouble coming home. So arrival in Las Vegas was seamless. They really don't ask you anything when you get there. They're just happy to have people coming to Vegas. We stayed at Caesar's Palace, which was right in the middle of the Strip. Super awesome location. It was at the time that we were there, which was just last week. They were requiring everyone indoors to be wearing masks. So they did enforce that. They had people walking around, get your mask on. As the nights got a little later, Friday, Saturday night, that got a little bit relaxed when there were people coming out of the clubs, drinking and carrying on. There wasn't as much enforcement of those masks, but they are asking for them throughout the day. So make sure you're prepared to wear your mask all the time, which really wasn't a big deal. As far as we were concerned, in order to get home, we needed to have a negative COVID test. So we didn't want to pick it up while we were there. So trying to get our PCR test to come home was our biggest challenge. And that we had actually gone to several different pharmacies, CVS, we went to Walgreens, we called different places, we searched all over the place, we walked across the street to a CVS. They didn't have any COVID testing there. And basically we ended up calling a place that said, yeah, they could get us in to do the test, but we'd have to get into into an Uber or cab and go across this Vegas, and we had to pay for the test in advance, which was $200. And so it just seemed a little bit like, why did they need our money in advance? So we were a little weary of that one. We left that one alone. We ended up at Planet Hollywood, and two security officers helped us out, and they found this place called Elite Medical. And that place actually does COVID tests on the spot right behind the hotel. So one block over from one big city block. So it was a good 10-minute walk, or a 7-minute or $7 cab ride. It was very close. We went there. It was $250 US to get the test, but they did it same day. And they were also highly recommended. So as we were standing in that line, there were people who had gone to the airports, had gotten their tests too early and were past the 72 hours by 10 minutes, and they had got turned away. There were other people standing in the lineup with their luggage. They had gone to one of the free, I believe it was a Walgreens, drive-through locations. They had gone on the Wednesday. It was now Sunday. Their results hadn't even been looked at yet. So they missed their flights. They were now standing in this lineup trying to get same day COVID tests so that they could get home. So you kind of get what you pay for. It was a little bit more expensive than we were expecting, but worthwhile because we did get the tests. They were very professional. They gave us water when we were in line. They were reputable and accurate. So we got what we paid for. Tip number 3, you get what you pay for. So don't go to the free places. It's a risk, and it just wasn't a risk we wanted to take. And after checking with some of the other people in line, it was probably a good decision. Tip number 4, make sure you don't get the test too early. The guy in the lineup, he was past 10 minutes past the 72 hours. They would not let him on his flight. It's just not worth it. Tip number 5, make sure that you tell them you need a PCR test to get back into Canada. Antigen tests will not do for Canada. You do need the PCR test. So, all in all, when we got to we had to do ArriveCAN, which we did. And then when we got to the airport, they asked us for all that information. It was very slow boarding the plane. We were delayed about an hour. But when we arrived to Canada, we ended up having to show them all of the documentation again, paper copies, digital copies. You had to show them your ArriveCAN. There's a code that you get once it's completed. And then they just stamped our passport with little green stickers, and then you just walked right through. I know that they do have some random selections for additional testing. We did not have to go through that. Tip number 6 is really just make sure that you fill out your ArriveCAN before you get to the airport while you've got Wi-Fi at the hotel. It just helps if you create, if you've got all the documents already on your phone, you've taken pictures of them, you're all set to go. So that's Vegas for you. We had a wonderful trip. It was awesome. And we'd go back. It was awesome. Have a great trip, everybody.